Hi, let's see what's going on with Helmet. It isn't a holiday, but Moody and Oma treat Gerhard's homecoming as one. The flat is crowded with friends and family and feels as festive as Christmas. It doesn't even matter that Hugo is there, as proud of Gerhard in his smart uniform as if he were his real father. Opa leads the family in a mealtime prayer, and then bowls and spoons are passed out. Oma ladles thick, milky potato soup, carefully scraping the bottom to find enough for all of them. Somehow, there are plates of sausages and thick, crusty bread, and even a brown cake with nuts. She cuts the cake in small pieces, enough to go around. Helmet is about to bite into the cake when Hugo says, "So tell us, my boy, what are you learning in school these days?" Helmet sets down his fork on the plate. "I'm writing my thesis for graduation," Helmet tells him. "It's about the difference between National Socialism and a plutocracy." "Splendid," says Hugo. "A political paper. Too bad the war will be over. The army could use soldiers like you. With your mind, you'd make a smashing officer. It's too bad. You will have missed it." Helmet stops listening, feels a dark numbness spread inside. He thinks about what Moody once said, that silence is how people get on sometimes. With his fingers, Hugo shoves the last bite of cake into his mouth. He stands and straightens his trouser legs. "Time to go, Emma," he says to Moody. "I'm tired, you're tired, we're all tired." He stretches out his hand. Moody smiles at Hugo, grasps his hand. As Helmet watches her leave, he wonders if he'll ever understand how she could love such a man. That night, Helmet, Gerhard, and Hans retreat to the bedroom at Oma and Opa's flat. Hans falls asleep right away, exhausted from his day's work at the shipyards. Helmet lies on his back in the darkness, arms linked behind his head, watching the moon shimmer on the walls. He feels like a small boy again. "Gerhard," he whispers, "are you awake?" "Yes." "Do you believe God has cursed us with Hitler?" "No," says Gerhard. "We can't blame God for Hitler. The German people gave us Hitler when they voted Nazis into office. Like it or not, he's our Führer. But he's a madman. How can we support him? We must support our country, especially now in time of war. And that means supporting our leaders." Gerhard rolls over, his back to Helmet. Conversation ended. Helmet lies awake for a long while, wondering if Germany deserves to win such a war. Gerhard's homecoming ends quickly. After only 2 days, Gerhard receives his draft notice on the bright red letterhead, ordering him to boot camp at the army camp in Riebeck-Gestalt to the north of Hamburg. Helmet sits on the bed, watches Gerhard stuff undergarments and socks into his duffel bag. It doesn't feel real, watching Gerhard pack as if he's readying for a bicycle trip. He wonders if he'll see his brother again. "I know how you feel about the war," says Gerhard, "but we must pray for Hitler to succeed. For if he does not, we all lose." Helmet doesn't understand. He doesn't answer. He just stares at the bookshelf. Gerhard won't let up. "Do you really think I can refuse to serve my country?" Helmet won't look at Gerhard. He feels childish. He knows his brother has no choice, yet he wants to blame him for that. "You know I'm not a Nazi, but I must stand for my country," says Gerhard as he pulls the cord and makes a tight knot. "What kind of man would I be if I did not? What kind of man fights for something that he knows is wrong?" Gerhard doesn't answer for a long time, and when he does, his eyes look pained. "Don't tell me that I am risking my life in vain. Don't tell me that if I die, I will have died for nothing." Helmet fears the answer. He swallows it, leaves the room. That afternoon, the train station is crowded with crying mothers and sweethearts, stoic fathers, and children waving red, white, and black flags. An SA band plays, the blare of trumpets and the rat-tat-tat of snare drums surround them. Helmet hates the drums, hates how they quicken his blood, how they bile his true feelings and try to convince him that the war is good. Moody cries as she stands on tiptoe, clings to Gerhard's neck, and Helmet notices how tiny she is, how her head comes to Gerhard's nose. Gerhard lifts Moody off the ground, kisses her, shakes Hugo's hand, and then tells Helmet to take care of Moody. Moody and Oma cling to each other as Gerhard boards the train, one gray infantry soldier among hundreds of gray infantry soldiers. He pushes his way to the window, sticks out his arm, waves, shouts goodbye, his bright blue eyes bright with danger. The train whistle blows. The wheels turn. Helmet takes several deep gulps, but he can't breathe as the train pulls away. The band picks up its tempo, and Helmut forgets how he hates the drums, forgets how angry Gerhard can make him, remembers only that he loves his brother, remembers the nights they shared a bedroom, Moody tucking them in, 3 brothers, 3 dark heads nestled against white pillows, white moonlight shimmering the walls, and suddenly Helmut is floating, praying, "Dear God, dear God, dear God, dear God, dear God, please keep Gerhard safe." All right, back to present time. And so, prison day number 264 passes slowly, the same as every other Tuesday, until 5 minutes past 1 o'clock. It is then that Helmut hears several footsteps outside his cell and the rattle of keys. His heart beats rapidly. He leaps to his feet, stands at attention. 4 uniformed prison office officials enter his room. They loom inside the small space, taking up all the air. 2 guards accompany the officials, their hands gripping their clubs. Ready. Always ready. That's what the guards are. Helmut barks his name. Schutzhofengärtner, Hubner, prisoner, Hubner. Even after all these months, Hugo's name, Hubner, still feels strange in his mouth. 6 pairs of eyes study him. Helmut Hubner, says one of the men. Helmut's heart pounds in his ears. He doesn't know this man, but to hear his name spoken aloud so formally causes his skin to tingle. This is an official visit. He knows important people have written letters on his behalf, people like his attorney and his senior district Hitler Youth leader, and even Hugo, asking for clemency. He's afraid to hope, but he can't stop hope from beating inside his chest. Helmut nods. "Yes, sir," he answers, his mouth as dry as sand. "I am First State Attorney Renke," the man says. "Executionary leader." He pauses, lets his title settle over Helmut. The title injects Helmut with white heat. This is the man who oversees all executions. Helmut sways, puts his hand out to the wall to steady himself, to keep himself from melting. Renke continues. "I am appearing by instruction from the Attorney General of the People's Court." Helmut straightens himself, stands tall. He looks Renke in the eye. He doesn't dare breathe, must keep hope from flying out of his chest. He hears Renke's pocket watch. Tick, tick, tick. Between each tick, 1,000 images flash through Helmut's mind. As thou wilt, as thou wilt, as thou wilt, as thou wilt. Flashback. Late March 1941. Hamburg is a black pool. Windows along each street are shuttered tight and blackout shades drawn. Not a slice of light anywhere. Behind a darkened window, Helmut sits at Oma's kitchen table in a small circle of light. The table is strewn with books and papers. He reads, scribbles a few words, stares into space. Helmut must put the finishing touches on his final paper, his thesis required for graduation. He hates the lies he must write to get a good grade. He wishes he could write what he really thinks of Hitler and the Nazis who shipped his brother off to war. He thinks about the roller radio locked in the closet for safekeeping. He glances at the clock, 5 minutes until 10. He stacks his books, lines up his pencils, shuffles his papers in orders, steps softly to his grandparents' bedrooms, listens at the closed door to Oma's steady breathing, Opa's light snoring. Both sound asleep at last. Quietly, ever so quietly, he slips a knife from the kitchen drawer, thrusts it into the closet lock, jabs it upward. Once, Jimmy's opened the door. The radio, right where Gerhard left it. Helmut whistles softly, can't believe his good fortune, and yet he's appalled at his own rashness. He carries the radio gingerly to the kitchen table, turns out the light, sits in the dark, runs his hands over the brown plastic casing. So smooth, so cool to the touch. Dare he turn it on? He does. He twists the knob. The radio comes to life, crackling softly, a dim amber light glowing from its face. His fingers tremble. He turns the dial ever so slowly, watches the needle slide. More crackling, and then 4 clear notes. Da-da-da-dum. 3 short and 1 long. The first 4 notes of Beethoven's 5th Symphony. The Morse code signal V for victory. In perfect German, the radio announcer says jauntily that, as if he's announcing a tennis match, "This is the BBC London with a German news broadcast." Helmut's nerves jangle. His hands shake. It's the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company. Every night, the BBC broadcasts a German-language edition of the news for Germans who dare to break the radio law. He thinks about Gerhard, the way he's locked up the radio for safekeeping. He told Helmut to leave it alone. The way he moralized to Helmut, to break the radio law would be a selfish act. It could endanger our family. Gerhard irritates him all over again. Arresting people for their beliefs is a crime, Helmut says aloud. Taking away our freedoms is a crime. He leans in closer, chins on his hands. The BBC newscaster is reporting the British losses in the Atlantic. German battleships and submarines operating in the Atlantic sank 367,800 tons of merchant vessels from March 16 through March 23, says the announcer. The Nazis have succeeded in one of the heaviest series of blows yet claimed against British shipping. The honesty electrifies Helmut. The way the British announced their own losses to the Germans. At 10:30, the broadcast ends. The announcer urges German listeners to find others to tune in and reminds them to turn the dial so that they won't give themselves away if caught. Helmut twists the dial, tunes in a Nazi-approved station, then snaps off the radio and stows it back in the closet. Helmut lies in bed, turning over the differences between the BBC and the RRG. The British disclose actual losses, whereas the RRG never does. It makes the British reports seem more truthful, more accurate, and that infuriates Helmut. Don't the Germans have a right to know the whole truth? With great relief, Helmut finishes his final thesis, turns it in, and on the last day of school, Ermanes stands in front of the class, grasping one of the graded papers. He pushes his carefully combed gray hair across his forehead. Shiny patches of scalp show, brighter and larger than when school year began. Helmut often senses a sadness about Ermanes. He can't explain it exactly, but there's something about his eyes, their reaction when the class discusses National Socialism, as if Ermanes isn't really a Nazi at heart, but does not dare say so. "I have your final papers here," says Ermanes, waving a sheath of papers. Helmut's classmates shift uncomfortably in their seats and tug at their neck collars, eager for dismissal. Ermanes licks his lips the way he would when he's searching for the exact words he wants to say. He's never in a hurry to dismiss his students. He always wants to impart one more bit of knowledge before he sends them into the world. "Each one of you has a gift," he began. "Something you can offer the fatherland." He looks at the faces. He can predict what will become of them. And in one sense he can, since teachers write thorough notations in their students' party record books, notations that will follow them throughout their lives. "Some of you are gifted in mathematics," he says, "some in science, some in sports, some in leadership, and yet, as different as each of your gifts is, together you form one body, an intricate part of one machine." The boys fidget, try to keep their eyes from the clock. Ermanes clears his throat, snaps each squirming boy back to attention. One paper stands out from the rest. It is written by a young man who has the gift of interpretation. He plucks the top paper from the stack. "The War of the Plutocrats," he reads. Helmut feels his face redden. It's his paper. "This essay suits the ideals of National Socialism," explains Ermanes in a faltering voice. "A plutocracy is a selfish government controlled by the wealthy. But National Socialism is a selfless government. A good Nazi works for the good of the fatherland, not for the self-interest and self-gain. A good Nazi is a good soldier for the fatherland who can lead as well as follow." For a brief second, their eyes met. And in that brief second, Helmut sees a flicker in his teacher's eyes. Helmut wonders if Ermanes believes his own words about National Socialism. "This paper was written by a student advanced in his years," continues Ermanes. He returns Helmut's paper to the stack and sets the stack on his desk. "These papers will become part of your permanent record," he says. Ermanes glances up at the clock. "Helmut, please remain. The rest of you are dismissed. Heil Hitler!" Helmut wonders what his teacher wants as his classmate rushes for the door. Perhaps Ermanes has thoughts like Helmut, thoughts he cannot dare to write. Perhaps that is what Ermanes wants to tell him. Helmut's hands tremble with anticipation. The room is empty, quiet. Ermanes sits in a student desk next to Helmut, folds his hands on his lap. You will go far, he says to Helmut. Your essay shows that a leader can lead with words as well as actions. Then he adds softly, but in class your idealism shows as well. Be careful of your idealism, my boy, for idealism is the most dangerous doctrine of all. And there it is again, the flicker. Helmut nurses a desire to blurt out the truth, that his paper is a lie, that it turned his stomach to write it, and that he will never write such lies again now that he has ended his Obero diploma. He senses that Hermanes would understand, but then the flicker is snuffed out, and in its place, hardness. And so Helmut says, I will go far. Just you wait and see. Someday you will hear something great about me. All right, see you guys later.